everybody, welcome to Life to Metal. My name is Scott Waters, and we have
TROG, TROG. I was going be aggressive, be aggressive, BEAGGRESSIVE, aggressive.
It's funny, every time I mention you in like one of my other videos, it's always TROG.
Where did that even come from?
I have no idea.
Because I don't say hi everybody, I'm TROG. TROG.
I don't know where I came from. We just started doing it.
You can't help but sound gassy when you say it. Like a TROG.
So what we're doing? 1985 top
Good Lord.
50.
It was a monster.
These are not in order from up until the top 15, which we did put in an order.
Yeah, the first 1,000 are in no order, and then we're going to do a top 15.
Right, top 15, which we're probably going to do in a separate video. But
the usual 4 to 5 parts.
So here's what we're going to try and do, which we've never done this before. We usually ramble on. Because we have so many, rather than making this a 16-part video, we're going to try and keep it under a minute to 2 minutes per record.
But yet we don't have a stopwatch or anything.
No.
And they're not going to play Grammy music to scoot us out of here or whatever. Oscar music.
So we're just going to go, and it's somewhat in alphabetical order.
And I'm wearing my Voivod shirt.
I'm wearing my Face Warning Spectre Within shirt.
Our 80s metal
tribute shirt.
Yeah. Although Voivod didn't have an album in '85, but it's a cool shirt.
Now we're going to start off with a compilation of sorts. Anvil, Backwaxed, Canadian heavy metal band.
Total traditional heavy metal.
Only Anvil album to not have an anvil on the cover.
Or to have the usual phrasing of this and this,
right.
This or this on this.
Right.
And backwaxing is some kind of gross sexual thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was, and it's basically a record company deal that band had little involvement with. But it contained a bunch of songs that were not on any other records or was on like B-sides.
Yeah.
So you got Pussy Poison, Steamin', You're a Liar, Fryin' Cryin'. I believe was all those.
Steamin' and Fryin' Cryin' were B-sides.
And then Backwaxed was never released before. And Backwaxed is basically, just leave it at that. It's just a sexual thing.
It has to do with.
Yep. Finishing on a woman's back. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I thought it had to do with like sticking stuff and ripping off hair.
No, that's about.
I jest.
Yeah, whatever.
Gist.
So you got
Jizz.
and then you got kind of a best of thing. You got Metal on Metal, School Love, which is one of the stellar tracks from the very first album.
Jackhammer's a great
Jackhammer,
one.
Scenery.
Scenery's a good tune. And Dave Allison sang Scenery, right?
You're correct. And for whatever reason, they did not put Winged Assassins on here. There's just so many great songs they could have put.
Was this before or after Forged in Fire?
This is after Forged in Fire.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, Winged Assassins is a great tune.
Anyhow, compilation, a cool one. Early Anvil, I like it.
Yep, great stuff.
Deserved to be in the top 50. We had about 150.
Something like
we cut a lot off.
We had to. I mean, a lot of it, like I said, as we're getting later 80s, I'm less well versed in a lot of the metal stuff, just because I was just getting out of it.
And it's just right at the beginning. Let me also say that Annie, Stormrider, A-N-E, also gave us a list and tried to help us out, and did help us out, just making sure we had some stuff on there that we didn't miss, and he gave us his list. So at the very end, when I roll the credits, I'm going to put Annie's list in there so you can see what they're doing.
Because once in a while we'll forget something real obvious, so it's kind of nice to have someone else just interject.
Chiming in, yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, 85. Basically, this was a comeback album for these guys.
Yep, exactly.
Fresh out of rehab and all that good stuff. Clean as a whistle. We got Aerosmith Done with Mirrors. Title is a reference to not doing coke anymore, so all the lettering is backwards. Although on later reissues of this, they changed it around.
Yeah, because people were confused by it, which is weird.
We don't want to make the public confused.
But it's a very odd Aerosmith album, and I mean, you guys know I love Aerosmith. They're my all-time favorite band. But this is a pretty lukewarm album from them.
I mean, they redid the Joe Perry Let the Music Do the Talking. They did a really kick-ass version of it, and I remember that was what initially got me into this album. There's some good tunes on here. Sheila's a good tune. Sheila was actually Steven Tyler's his sponsor when he was in rehab. I found out from someone who was in rehab with him. Told me.
My Fist Your Face.
Yep, Gypsy Boots.
Some decent songs, and
She's
it was
on Fire.
Produced by Van Halen producer
Ted Templeman.
Ted Templeman. Yep. But yeah, it's a very simplistic, straightforward hard rock record.
It is
a little different from the '70s stuff. Much different from like Rock and a Hard Place.
For sure. Not one I reach for often to play. But then again, we're getting to a point of Aerosmith where I've just about lost it for them.
For me, I was in college when that came out, and I actually hitchhiked to the mall to buy a copy because I didn't have a car. And when I get there, I knew it was the new Aerosmith records coming out, and I drove my roommates nuts. I played that record over and over and over again.
I still kind of like the Joe Perry version better.
I love the Joe Perry version better. Now, the Joe Perry version, to me, is the way Aerosmith would have played it if they had recorded it in '79.
Probably.
Volatile lineup. This one is more refined, more.
And Steven Tyler put his mark on it. He changed some of the lyrics, and
but
it's a more condensed version as well.
And one other thing about that record is this is one of the first records you see where the record had less songs on it than the CD had. Because the song Darkness isn't on the vinyl.
And Darkness is a great
and it was on the CD and the cassette.
Yep. Because back when they were trying to sell CDs and they were getting away from vinyl, so they were given incentives for that.
Yep. And Darkness is kind of Darkness is a cool song. It's kind of a slow, moody, slow burner.
Piano song, Darkness.
But it's not a ballad. It's just a slow burner. So.
Yes. Yeah. It's
all right. Next up,
moody.
This 1985 was definitely the year of thrash.
Oh, hell yeah.
And this is one record that's on the very top of my want list on vinyl. I used to have this. I sold it in 1990. I do have an old CD pressing, but this is Dark Angel. And this is We Have Arrived. This is early Dark Angel. This is before Ron Reinhardt. This is before James Hoagland. Not even Hoagland was on this record, I don't think. Very, very raw. A couple of these songs would see, like Merciless Death, would be revived on the next record. This was a self-released thing.
Was that their first?
This is their first, and it came out 2 different covers. Axe Killer released the original version with the black and just the orange and rings on the center.
That's the one I had.
And that is actually the first pressing. Most people think this is the first pressing, but from what I understand, from what Ron Reinhardt told me, was that the band sold the rights or whatever to that label, that French label, to put it out, and the money they received from that, they used that to put out this version.
Got it.
And there's something kind of unique on this cover. Something Randy actually told me. One of those little ghostly figures on here.
I told you?
Yep, you did. Is from what?
Oh, holy crap! You're right. It's the figure is one of the little ghouls that's floating on the back of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Oh,
sure
the front.
Mm-hmm.
One of the little kind of demons that are floating there. And yeah, I don't think it's taken directly from it, but whoever drew it based it on that.
No doubt.
Exactly. That's funny.
No doubt.
So I must have told you that a while ago.
A long time ago. Raw.
But I always notice crap like that.
Super raw thrash metal, especially for the time. But like I said, 85 was definitely the year of thrash.
Yeah, lots of thrash came out that year. And I was actually still into it at that point.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to show one more.
Okay.
This is actually
one of the few I was into.
Destruction. Sentence of Death was 84, we think.
Infernal Overkill was 85.
Infernal Overkill was 85. This is one that
I owned both of them.
Right.
And this was much more brutal thrash than I was used to. I was into the Big Four and Exodus and all that, but Destruction was a lot. They had a much more brutal sound, I think. And a more brutal presentation, I think. Just Infernal Overkill, it's a pretty brutal cover. It's like big nuclear explosion, but it's got the skull raining down more fire on the victim. It's just crazy. Crazy. I haven't heard this stuff in forever. Destruction. German thrash.
Teutonic thrash.
Yep.
These guys, along with Kreator and Sodom, created a sound that really nobody else had. And I can even remember people calling these bands death metal back in the day.
Yeah.
Because they were definitely more raw.
And the singing was more guttural, not quite like the death metal, the modern death metal.
Right, or even the band Death. But
yeah.
It's definitely different than, the American side, the Bay Area and LA thrash bands.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I saw these guys back in '84 when they were just coming around, where they just had their demo out. I thought the singer was killer. He's a black guy named Caton DePena.
Yep.
Yeah. Hyrax, this is their debut, Raging Violence, and they had a song on here called Bombs of Death that was on one of the Metal Massacre compilations.
Yep,
exactly. I loved it. I loved his voice because he wasn't screaming. He really was like singing, and you could tell he had some technique to his voice, and he was more of a singer. He wasn't a screamer.
Definitely a unique sound. And their sound was more, it wasn't the thrash that Metallica was playing or Megadeth.
No.
It was
more almost a hardcore approach. Yeah, this is like early hardcore crossover stuff. The songs were really short, they weren't real long. Right here, and this, actually I saw them, they're not listed on this flyer, but I saw Megadeth back at Ruthie's Inn in '84, and Hyrax, Legacy, aka Testament, and Exodus all opened for Megadeth that night. What a show! And that's where I got familiar with Hyrax. And we got a cool, very different pus head cover going on here. It's like Heavy Metal Humpty Dumpty or something. And
Humpty Dumpty was shot.
Yep. Humpty Dumpty didn't fall. He was shot to hell. Metal Blade, one of the early Metal Blade releases.
Yep. That's a classic.
Yep, it is. And I think Scott gave me that copy.
This next one, I don't have this particular album on vinyl yet. It's on my ever-growing, never-ending, eternal want list. This is another German band. This is Iron Angel. This is Hellish CROSSFIRE. Always love this cover. This I would call, unlike Kreator and Destruction and so on, this is more speed metal. I was talking to a guy about this online recently, and he called them Judas Priest on crack.
On crack? Why not on
I went
speed?
on speed, but yeah, I get the meaning. You know, it's basically sped up, you know, traditional heavy metal, which to me is speed metal, but most people would call these guys thrash.
Yeah, I kind of started losing my understanding of the
always
genre
love
splitting.
the cover of that, and it's funny because in the
that angel has a nice little dress on. I thought it was like underwear, like underalls.
You know, it's funny because that orange and green.
Look at that.
That orange and green,
very
red and
ultimatum.
green, is it's very used a lot now in power metal bands. You see it a lot now. It's just anyhow, just a classic album. Great cover.
That's one thing I don't like about the direction modern heavy metal is going. Is it's all. The cover art is just it's dismal and more blacks and browns, and it's just boring. And
you got a singer named Dirk, so you know it's got to be good.
Hi, Dirk.
I don't think any of these guys are old enough to have mustaches, though.
Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
All right, next is you're next.
This is a big album. I'm surprised it's not in.
This could have been in, and maybe it would have been, but
I can't say that I was a huge fan of this album because Maiden for me was always secondary. Loved them, but at this point they were so big, I just was like, whatever. But still, no denying this was a massive release, Live After Death, first double live album for them.
Yep.
And really, Power Slave, I think, put Maiden on the map with outside of typical metal circles. And this was kind of the result of it. Huge World Slavery Tour after Power Slave. Massive, massive tour. Probably their biggest to date, I would say.
Yeah, they were just a huge arena band at this point.
They were. And of course, you've got the Derek Riggs cover. It's just Live After Death is an H.P. Lovecraft.
Hey, Derek.
H.P. Lovecraft reference. And just everything's on here, really. It's just like greatest hits by Maiden done live. Bruce doing Running Free. It was always a little iffy for me. But I never really was great. I was never really comfortable with Bruce doing Paul Di'Anno stuff. Same way I wasn't comfortable with Dio doing Ozzy stuff.
As much as they deny that they had never had a punk influence and never had a punk sound, those first couple Maiden albums had a lot of punk edge, man.
And a lot of it was due to Paul Di'Anno because he was more street,
yep,
than the other guys were, and definitely more than Dickinson.
Oh, this next one,
What's his name?
also don't have. You'll find this amusing.
I already am.
Yeah. I also have the second and third Liege Lord album on vinyl. I don't have Freedom's Rise, so I brought the CD, which this is actually a bootleg I've had on CD for a long time. Vocalist name is Andy Michaud.
Is it really?
Andy Michaud.
Huh. My name is Randy Michaud.
So Andy Michaud sang on the first and second album.
Are these guys Canadian?
These guys are American, very power metalish by today's standards. I would call it American power metal. Not thrash at all.
He looks nothing like me.
Metal Church Reverend, Heretic, Liege Lord, all kind of in that same vein.
Cool.
Always loved the cover art. Just a classic album. This is actually, there's more than one cover for this one. I believe this is the second pressing or the more popular pressing. The first one was black and white cover, I believe.
Okay.
Regardless, don't want to have on vinyl. This is the CD at the moment. Just great stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I know the name Liege Lord. Certainly didn't know the name of the singer. But yeah, cool. I mean, I can't be in there.
And this is also the band that Joe Camu, whatever came out of. Of course, Joe went on to be in Overkill and later on into Annihilator. Just fantastic, straightforward heavy metal. I love this album. This is really a great T-shirt.
Very cool.
Wish I had the vinyl. Don't. So there you go, Liege Lord.
All right. These, like Scott keeps saying, '85 was a big year for thrash. These are one of the last of the classic metal bands from that era that they got lost in the shuffle a bit because they were from the Bay Area. Metallica overshadowed the hell out of them, which is too bad because they were a great band. Laaz Rockit. They jumped on the thrash bandwagon pretty much after this one.
Yeah, they had 2 albums that were like more power metal, I'd say, along the lines of
City's Gonna Burn and No Stranger Danger.
And along the lines of Vicious Rumors and Metal Church and that kind of thing.
And Priest is the next progression from Priest. And I loved them when they were in this genre. I lost track of them once they went to the thrash end of things. But like I said, these first 2 albums are the ones I really dig. City's Gonna Burn and their demo prior to it were just great metal. Very fun.
Yeah, it's a straightforward heavy metal.
Yeah. They're still wearing studs and leather. You know.
Pushing the boundaries of thrash. It's, to me, this is prototypical American power metal. It's funny because power metal now is totally not this. Yeah, nobody calls this power metal anymore. It's all this Dungeons and Dragons, Yngwie Malmsteen inspired stuff.
Yeah, it's more classically tinged and it has big epic
keyboards and big epic. Sing-along chants, soccer chants.
I call it flower power metal myself.
but anyhow, this is what I called power metal back in the 80s.
Yep. I mean, even Metallica was kind of called power metal.
They were calling themselves power metal back in the day before it was called thrash.
That's what they used to print on their business cards. That's where it came from.
And it even like thrash, the bands that were called thrash back then were more of crossover bands.
Right.
It's funny because the definitions have changed. So
and everything's subjective and convoluted after a while anyway.
That's not heavy metal.
Not at all.
Alright, this next one, getting away from the thrash thing, going back to LA though, Lizzy Borden. Great, typical LA cover with the good-looking woman on it, which you saw in a lot of them. You know, you think of Rat, you think of that kind of thing. But this one's a little atypical, as you've got Lizzy sitting back here with an axe in his hand, reflected in the mirror.
Lizzy Borden was more of a shock rock type band.
Lizzy Borden was total shock rock and a very huge band in that area.
Yep.
But outside, never.
Speaking of shock rock, there's one album we neglected to pull out. Just.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We did. We'll get to it.
We have to because I love that album.
Lizzy Borden.
You keep talking. I'll be right back.
Lizzy Borden, Love You to Pieces. So this has got a whole classic stuff on here. So you got Council for Cauldron, Psychopath, Red Rum, which is a classic song. It's been covered by several other bands. Love You to Pieces, which of course is the title track. And the back cover is cool too. I mean, so you got the front cover with the girl laying in the bed, and Lizzy back here with the axe. In the back, you got the bloody axe and the stiletto high heels. So
I'm back. Was Alex Nelson the guitar player on this?
Yes, I believe he was.
He was not on this one.
He was not on this one.
Okay.
Yep, you're wrong. I was wrong. So you got Gene Allen and Tony Matuzak on guitars. And then you've got, of course, Joey Scott Hargis on drums, which is Lizzy's brother, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So anyhow.
Awesome.
Lizzy Borden, LA. It's just straightforward metal, really.
First full length?
I believe it was.
First release was an EP.
Yeah, Give Me the Axe. Yep.
Yeah.
Great album. I love this album. Most of this album saw its reissue basically on the live album. Almost all these songs were on there. So.
Right. This one actually I would have already gotten. So
that's right.
I'll go to this one now. Yeah,
this goes right along with it.
It really does. That's what it reminded me of it.
This actually was on our list and we just forgot to pull it.
And I love this album. I bought this album for the cover and the cover alone. I never heard a note on it. This is Impaler from the Minnesota area, I believe. The cover has the singer. he's holding what looks like a bloody piece of flesh over a dead female corpse. And it's just like, at this point, you know, we weren't completely inundated with shocking covers like this. So it just looked like these guys are just looking for trouble. They just wanted to stir it up. I was like, all right, I'll try it, I'll bite. And it's a 4-song EP, and I loved it. It's like demo quality, but it's just got something about it you really dig. We got shock rock, Crack That Whip, Impaler, and Heaven's Force, which is actually kind of a cool, it's almost like a faith-based song. But you get the cover and you get Heaven's Force. I don't know. I just liked it.
And again, it's just straightforward heavy metal. Not that different from Lizzy Borden, really.
Not that different.
Vocals are very different.
Yeah, the quality on this one, they went on to make several more albums.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really follow them because nothing quite hit me the way that this one did. This was just kind of an anomaly. But I dig them. I liked Impaler. And they were definitely shock rock, and they went more into the horror end of things with each of their releases.
I forgot to mention we were showing that Lizzy Borden, his vocals were definitely unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, very high pitched but different.
Screechy.
Very screechy.
Yeah, very screechy.
All right, so I think I'm up next. This is this album's been released under 2 different titles: self-titled or Endangered Species by Leatherwolf. The 3-guitar attack, straightforward heavy metal again. Which by '85 this was becoming less. There was less of
Kinda
this.
Scarce, yeah.
Because I mean, by '85 it was either going. It was split. You had the pop, glam, hair metal, whatever you want to call it. I hate the term hair metal, but the pop glam metal stuff coming out of LA, and then you had the whole Bay Area thing coming out of the other end of California, and then everybody else was over releasing, the Teutonic thrash and all that.
Yeah.
So these straightforward bands they just weren't putting. There wasn't many of them.
Nope.
So anyhow, just very good stuff. Melodic vocals. I love his vocals. What's his name? I forget his name now. Mike Oliveria, something like that. I'm looking for the name on here. There it is, Mike Oliveria.
So
Mike Oliver. I still can't pronounce
it's
it.
Olivier. That's
there you go.
Yeah, like Laurence Olivier. Now, clear it up. This came out as a self-titled first, but it was less songs.
That's the way I understand it.
Or was it the exact
I don't
same?
know. I've only ever had this one version of it with I think this 9 songs.
Okay.
That's the only one I've ever had. It's called Endangered Species as far as. And this is a band I discovered after the fact. This is not one I heard in '85.
Okay.
I heard their 3rd album first and then went backwards. So, Street Ready was the 3rd one. And then this also has, there's Matt Herrick on here.
How come there's only, there is 5 guys in the picture. I was going to say, oh look, here's Max. Max wanted to come up and say hello. Hi, Max. Max is my very needy kitty. Once you start petting him, you better not stop, or else he's going to bug the hell out of you.
Yeah, this guy right here.
Anyway.
Matt Herrick, he left Leatherwolf to join Striper.
Striper? Bass player?
Yep.
Oh, he was the one who replaced Tim Gaines.
He replaced Tim Gaines, was in the early pictures of
Interesting.
Hell
with the Devil.
So
that's funny.
Little piece of metal history going on there.
Fun.
This is I think this is a very important album. This one could have been in the top 15. Probably should have been for its importance. And
yeah, I liked it at the time.
I still like it.
Because I liked the debut as well. Second album by Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force, or as I like to call him, Yin Yang Malshake. Which I don't know where that came from. I'll see Jeff Scott Soto again. He's back, and just giving there's more
performances of his life.
Yeah, this isn't mainly instrumental like the first one was.
Right.
I'll See the Light Tonight was a big one. Don't Let It End was another one. Disciples of Hell and I'm a Viking were a little goofy.
I am a Viking. But this right here to me, this is the beginnings of that European power metal.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's very classically influenced.
Influenced. It has the Dungeons and Dragons and Vikings and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I remember more from side 1 than I do from side 2. I think I kind of got stuck on side 1. Disciples of Hell, great song musically. The lyrics, they kind of read like a laundry list of Satanism. It's like, how does it go? Burning candles, incantations, human sacrifice, check. It's like they like had a list of all the stuff they needed for their satanic ritual, and they're just like buying it. It's just silly.
This is a bunch of words that sound evil.
It's like, this is how you do Satanism by numbers.
And then the funny thing is he never really got into any of that again. It was just like that.
No, and Jeff Scott Soto, from what I know, he's even like a Christian, I think.
Yeah.
So it was about as a benign satanic type song as there was.
It was very common in '85 though. I mean, definitely Merciful Fate and Venom. And I actually saw them on I think it was a tour right before this album came out, because it was the Rape and Pillage tour. I saw them in some little club.
Did they open for AC/DC?
No, it was they were the headliner at a little club.
Oh, I saw them open for AC/DC on the Fly on the Wall tour. Did we forget that one too?
No.
Did we cut it off?
We probably cut it off.
That's an odd one to cut off.
Yeah, had a lot of albums to cut off.
AC/DC Fly on the Wall came out in 1985 too. For some reason we cut it off the list. I don't know why. We had too many.
I think we were trying to stick more to most of the metal stuff, although we did include Aerosmith.
Yeah, so I guess that's why I was wondering.
Anyhow, next up, another Teutonic thrash band, Kreator. Of the 3 bands, I know a lot of people prefer Destruction, but my favorite are Sodom and Kreator. I think Kreator, Sodom, and Destruction had a very similar sound, especially early on. Venom-esque in their rawness, but more precise and machine gunnish in the delivery. Very heavy, very fast. It was all about speed.
Right.
I call it speed for speed's sake. But they were very raw and guttural as well. But what I think separated Kreator from Destruction and Sodom, at least at this point, was Mile's vocals. He was more high-pitched and shrill, and he had a very charismatic, distinct sound that nobody else had.
Okay. To be honest, I've never heard Kreator, and I was very limited in my exposure to thrash, so Destruction would have been my favorite of the three because I never heard the other two.
And this album's got still some of their most timeless songs on here. Of course, Endless Death, Tormentor, and of course, Flag of Fate. It's time to raise the flag of hate. Yeah,
Awesome.
I've seen Kreator several times, and Melee is he just commands the crowd. He's amazing. I want you all to destroy this place. He's just great in concert. And I will
destroy you.
I always love this cover art. And this artist has done several other thrash covers. He's done work for Hyrax, among others. I can't remember his name. There it is.
Lawveer. Lawvere. I don't know. There's probably a way to pronounce it. He's probably German. Lawveer.
Kreator, Endless Pain, classic album. Love Kreator.
Debut?
That was their full-length debut, yes.
Okay. All right, my turn. Back into more hard rock territory. Veteran Gary Moore. We have Philip Lynotte's presence is on this heavily as well.
Some of his last performances, really,
Yes,
because this was
true.
in 1985, and
He died the next year in September.
September 1986, right?
Yep. So we got opening cut out in the field is Gary and Phil doing
together,
it together. And there's another crack on
I think
here
Military
called
Man is on
Military
there,
Man.
and there should be another one, I believe.
Was it Empty Rooms?
Yep, Empty Rooms was one that Phil played on, I believe.
No, Neil Carter was on this, who was the keyboard guitarist for UFO during the Chapman years.
I'm going to swear he played on another song, but I could be wrong.
Phil played on Nothing to Lose,
There you go.
backing vocals.
Yeah.
Bob Daisley is also on here, so really an all-star lineup on this album. Good album.
It's
one
a
of the
very
few.
good album.
I like Gary Moore. I don't have a lot of his stuff, but this is one of the few I do have. Probably because Phil's on it too.
I mean, if you like Thin Lizzy, there's no reason not to have this record. I mean,
Gary Moore's stuff was always quality.
Gary Moore was always, even when he wasn't a part of Thin Lizzy, he was a part of Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, and
he was always been Phil's friend. And
yeah, and he would come back for. And Gary did some tribute stuff for Phil long before the tribute stuff was happening.
both those guys
with the
were
Thin
gone.
Lizzy
It's
band.
amazing that we lost Phil a long time ago. We lost Gary just a couple years ago now.
Yeah. It sucks.
All right,
Sucks.
another album I think is very important in the evolution of what they now call power metal, and I would call this power metal too.
I liked this album.
Here's what I think of what power metal was when I was in the 80s as a metalhead. Power metal to me was Metal Church was a prototypical power metal band. It was that band that rode the fence between thrash. They were having it fast like most of the thrash band,
And
but
traditional.
but they had their foot more into the traditional metal.
Yeah, so
and
it's kind of like a missing link between the two.
and this
genres.
band fit in there perfectly.
However, much more classically oriented. I would call these guys more on the Maiden side of things.
Very important album for power metal, especially the European power metal scene. Almost to the point of thrash at sometimes. Some of their most well-known songs in here. Ride This Sky!
Yeah.
And I mean, how you got Heavy Metal is the Law. I mean, come on, that's like so power metal.
Yeah. And I love Pumpkinhead here.
Metal is the law.
I love Pumpkinhead here blowing the horn. I mean, this is such a goofy looking picture, but it's something about it's just kind of cool.
I mean,
I mean, Walls of Jericho. It's a biblical theme.
Kai Hansen on here. It's just a great album. And again, German band, very different from the other German bands we've shown so far.
Oh yeah.
Nothing like Destruction or Sodom.
Yeah, HELLOWEEN had a real kind of quirk to their stuff. Now this was prior to the I Want Out. They got a different singer for the next one, right?
They did.
Yeah.
Yep, they did. But yeah, just a great album. They also had an EP, I believe, that came out the same year, which I don't happen to have with me. So
What was that one called?
I think it's just called Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah. And then always loved the cover art as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Walls of Jericho with the, I don't know what that guy is.
They didn't just fall down; they was punched down.
They were
by
knocked down.
Some scully guy.
So from this history lesson, we've gotten that Humpty Dumpty was pushed or shot.
And the Walls of Jericho,
Walls of Jericho were knocked down by some
muscle-bound skeleton metal person, who were very common back in those days. I understand.
All right, another this one's Canadian band.
Me or you?
Me. This is Helix.
Helix.
This would have been their 5th album, I believe. 1985. Obviously, this was them pushing a more commercial sound.
This was after Walking the Razor's Edge.
Yes, more commercial sound, but still very Helix.
Yeah.
The kids are all shaking. Yeah, I mean, this is a very Deep Cuts the Knife. Matter of fact, I gave you the Deep Cuts the Knife 7-inch. We should have shown it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Ride the Rocket, Long Way to Heaven, and melodic songs. School of Hard Knocks. Banging off of the bricks.
Banging off of the bricks. I hate that, especially when it's head first.
Isn't that just very Canadian?
Banging off of the bricks.
Yeah. Doesn't it just sound Canadian the way they're saying?
Yeah.
Eh?
Beauty. Helix, eh?
And he got Helix on the front cover, looking a little bit
a little glam
angelic.
Yes.
What is that thing in his hand right there?
Looks like it might actually be a helix from a DNA.
Could be.
Because that's what a helix is, folks.
Yep.
It's the double helix when in the DNA strand, and it kind of goes around like that. That's where they get the name
Yeah,
from.
I love Helix. I mean, they're of that more melodic. I don't even know if you can call it pop metal, whatever you want to call it. Helix is one of my favorites. So.
Well, look, Bon Jovi had already come on the scene, and they were affecting everybody. And the image, look at it. I mean, they were starting to look. It was less about denim and leather and studs, and it was starting to become a little prettier, a little more acceptable.
Although all
the
the
hair
guys,
was a little foofier.
except for Brian, or all the guys are wearing leather vests and leather pants.
Brian's
got the all white thing going on here.
Jumpsuit.
Is it? No, he's got a jacket on or something like that, and white pants. It just looks like.
Oh, okay. Looked like a jumpsuit.
Regardless,
it might as well be a jumpsuit.
You can see. I mean, Brian before this was looking a lot like, you know, with this leather and denim and the studs on his arms, and he kind of it's not going on.
And he was kind of rugged looking. It's kind of like they had this dirty kind of image going on.
Now here, obviously, they were cleaning it up to get him. And Deep Cuts the Knife is a very catchy song. It should have been a hit.
As Bobby Fleckman said, "Money talks and bullshit walks."
There you go.
And I have no idea what she meant by that.
And as MALMSTEENS said, more is more.
And he's gonna release the fury. All right. Speaking of being impacted by trends.
But this one wasn't. This one not so much. Not as much.
Right. We got Raven. Stay hard or don't. You know, whatever.
And you guys all know that Raven is another one of my favorite bands. I did a Raven collection video.
Yeah.
I'll try to remember to put a link above so you guys can check that out.
And I love Raven. I kind of stopped following him at some point, like I did with so many bands. This was actually a couple years after this came out. I got to interview John on my radio show in New York when I was in school at SUNY Cortland. Yeah, so this had already come and gone, and they were kind of back on the original Raven track at that point.
And this is Raven on a big label. You know, Metallica got it.
This is the first one or the second one?
This is the first one.
Okay.
So Metallica had gotten on a bigger label.
Yep.
You know, all these bands were getting on bigger, and Raven, rightly so, got on a bigger label.
It's on Atlantic.
But Atlantic and Sony forced a lot of bands into sounds that didn't match.
Yeah, everyone wanted what
was popular, what was selling.
Right.
And
Metallica got onto Elektra, which Metallica was in a class by themselves.
But the thing is, you know, this album still it's heavy, but it doesn't have that same manic rawness that the first three albums had, or the live album had, and that's what people loved about Raven. It was John Gallagher's over the top howl and that crazy drumming of Wacko, and you know, it's just
they redid Hard Ride on this, which was one of their first singles,
and it was a great song.
It was,
but they made it more. They made it cleaner, and it lost its edge a bit.
Yeah, because Hard Ride, it's just about what it sounds like. It's like,
stay hard, stay wet. I mean, yeah, it's just, it doesn't have the same edge, and Atlantic took him even further into that with the next record, but this is actually still a decent Raven record. I don't think it's as good as the albums that followed the Atlantic years, or definitely not as good as the ones on the Neat years.
Oh, hell no, no. They were one of the seminal new wave of British heavy metal bands, and you know, one of the ones that stuck it out, and they kept going, and they're still going. I mean, Raven's still kicking.
I think, yeah, they are still. They're still.
Yeah. Joe Hasselvander's been with them for probably longer than Wacko
way
was
longer. Yeah, and not only, and they have they actually have a new album that came out last year that's just phenomenal. It's as good as their early years. It's really that good.
Yeah.
And I think this was produced by Michael Wagner, who was producing a lot of pop metal stuff at the time.
Which is interesting because Michael Wagner and Udo Dirkschneider were double trouble, and they were involved in Raven stuff prior, and they were like sought after metal producers of the time.
Right, and I also
think they weren't working for Atlantic at the time.
And I also think the Marshall and John, right here, Marshall and John Zazula.
They were the originators
of Megaforce, and they were the ones who basically got Metallica into anything.
Yeah, so it really, they were all kind of, and Megaforce got bought out by Atlantic, so that's probably why they're, why you see them present now. My turn or yours?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. There's no.